At a number 10 spot, we have the emerald jewel wasp. The emerald jewel wasp has the ability to turn cockroaches into zombies. Yup, you heard that right. The wasp manipulation of the cockroach is a truly remarkable and horrifying process. These wasps reproduce by stinging a cockroach and paralyzing it with its venom. The first sting targets the thoracic ganglion, which is part of the central nervous system. This ends up paralyzing the front legs of the cockroach. Then after this, the wasp delivers a second sting, and this time targeting the brain of the cockroach. The stings aren't meant to kill, but to give the wasp control of the cockroach, turning it into a zombie. The wasp then bites off the head of its antennas. It then leads the half-paralyzed brain-dead cockroach along by its antenna, using it as a lead towards its burrow. Inside of the burrow, it lays eggs inside of the roach in a place known as a coxal plate. Then it buries it alive. While in this tomb, the larvae will hatch from within the cockroach, and over a period of a week, they'll begin to feed off the still alive cockroach from the inside. Once it's done eating, it eventually bursts out of the cockroach in a manner reminiscent of the famous scene from the movie Alien. Number 9, the Liopleurodon. Imagine, if you will, a creature that is as big as a school bus with an everlasting thirst for blood, gliding through the warm tropical shallow seas of the late Jurassic. This is exactly what the Liopleurodon was. A massive marine reptile that measured up to 82 feet in length and was also considered one of the deadliest predators in the history of life on Earth. With its massive head, short neck, and powerful flippers, this creature was a formidable predator. Its jaws were lined with needle-sharp teeth that were capable of killing any other marine animal at the time. The skull and jawbones were specifically strengthened to help them withstand the powerful biting force of its jaws. This ancient beast was a true apex predator, preying on other giant marine reptiles and fish, particularly marine crocodiles, sharks, and all sorts of other pliosaurs. But the most impressive prey item on its menu was the 90-foot giant fish known as the Leetzichthys. Liopleurodon was an ambush predator, lying in wait for its prey to pass by. It was capable of holding its breath for at least an hour, making it a stealthy hunter. It also had a nose that was capable of picking up any scent without inhaling any water, similar to a shark, allowing it to detect prey from considerable distances. But Liopleurodon wasn't just a killing machine, it was also a survivor. It was long-lived, capable of surviving to over 100 years old, and like crocodiles, it grew constantly throughout its life. And as a reptile, it still needed to breathe air, but because of its immense size, it could not leave the water, even for short periods of a time. Number 8, the Candiru. This fish is the only fish feared by men. Why? Well, because it has the ability to swim up your... yeah, you know. The Candiru is a small parasitic freshwater catfish that is said to be able to enter a man's urethra, attach itself with its spines, and cause immense pain. And I know all my fellow guys can feel this pain through the screen. The legend of this creature has been circulating for centuries, and it is deeply ingrained in the cultural imagination since there is no real evidence of this actually happening. But there are many stories of it. The Candiru lives in the Amazon and is said to be attracted to the smell of urine, leading it to swim up a man's urine stream and enter the urethra. The catfish is usually 17 centimeters long and can grow up to 40 centimeters long, and apart from their unique talent of entering a male's urethra, it usually attaches to the gills of larger fish instead and uses their spines on their gills to cling to their prey, causing inflammation, hemorrhage, and then death. The first account of Candirus entering the human body took place surprisingly in women. Earliest reports date back to 1829. German biologist von Martius only heard of the story secondhand from local people from the region. The local people of the region supposedly wore jock straps made of coconut shells when they bathed in the river as a preventative measure. It wasn't until 1997 when a 23-year-old man claimed that a Candiru had jumped from the water into his urethra as he urinated in knee-deep water in Brazil. This claim was met with much skepticism, and marine biologist Stephen Spott concluded that the Candiru's teeth were not strong enough to chew through such tissue. In conclusion, while the legend of the Candiru is a fascinating one, there seems to be little evidence to support the idea that it is a real threat to human health. But just the fear of having a fish go up your, you know what, doesn't sound too appealing at all, and definitely makes it one of the most terrifying creatures to ever exist. At a number 7 spot, we have the Basilosaurus. When we see whales now, we see them as gentle giants, but back in the prehistoric times, these large creatures had teeth like this. This animal was the Basilosaurus, a prehistoric whale that lived between 40 to 34 million years ago during the late Eocene period. The name Basilosaurus, which means king lizard in Greek, is fitting for this formidable creature, measuring up to 70 feet in length and weighing between 10 10 to 15 tons, the Basilosaurus was one of the largest marine animals of its time. Its body structure, more eel-like than whale-like, caused initial confusion among scientists and earned it the name sea serpent. Basilosaurus also possessed a unique physical feature, with its blowhead located on its snout, unlike the more primitive whales that had it at the tip of their snout, or the modern whales and dolphins that have it located between or behind the eyes. But the worst thing was that these creatures were the top predator in their environment. They basically preyed on sharks and all types of other gigantic predatory fish. And the reason why this is known is because some of these animals are just found with bite marks of this creature. Number 6, terror birds. Imagine racing through the vast Argentina plains and you see a strange feathery bird towering over you, and as you walk up, you see it pecking its prey to death with a hooked beak mounted on its head as big as a horse's. These were the terror birds, the most dominant flightless bird to ever exist. And let me tell you, they truly lived up to their name. These creatures were not only tall, 10 feet to be exact, but they were also fast and fierce, embodying the power of their predatory dinosaur relatives before them. The terror birds were the only line of carnivorous flightless birds to ever exist. Luckily, these species were kept in the Cenozoic era, some 62 million years ago. But if you wanted to imagine these, just imagine an overgrown ostrich with a beak that can completely crush your skull in one peck. They dominated South America, ruling over a diverse fauna made up of primitive mammalian herbivores and small carnivorous mammals. The terror bird has also been studied extensively, and many theories have been proposed about how they hunted. Some scientists believe that they are cheetah-like runners, chasing down their prey with lightning speed, while others think they are more like kickboxers, using their massive beaks to render their prey helpless. But one thing is for sure, these birds had powerful beaks and necks that could withstand a great deal of force, making them one of the most terrifying creatures to ever exist. In the hump of our list, we have sea scorpions. All I gotta say is, 8 feet long scorpions? Need I say more? Eurypterids, also known as sea scorpions, were a group of ancient aquatic predators that roamed the waters during the Paleozoic era over 400 million years ago. Despite their nickname, sea scorpions were not actually scorpions, but they are believed to be closely related to arachnids, a group that includes scorpions, spiders, and horseshoe crabs. These ancient creatures varied in size, with most of the fossil specimens discovered being the size of lobsters or even smaller. However, there are 2 giant species that stood up in the fossil record. The first is Echelopterus, which may have been the largest anthrapod ever to live, measuring up to 7 feet in length. The second pterygoid was just inches shorter and may have been a scavenger, but regardless, these guys were huge. These creatures were carnivores as well, and they would hunt and eat different aquatic animals using its pincers and spiked tail. These strong and sharp claws helped them firmly hold on to their prey where they couldn't escape and they would be consumed later. They also had compound eyes, which also aided in their hunting. And to make these guys even more scarier, they had the ability to walk on land for short periods. This just meant that there were few places for the prey, which may have included early arthropods, fish, and amphibians to hide. Their presence in the ocean likely played a role in the evolutionary arms race that led to the development of armored and terrifying predators, spurring the ancestors of modern terrestrial animals to abandon the ocean. And if these guys existed today, I bet we would avoid all parts of their natural habitat. Number 4, the Titanoboa. A silent hunter once roamed deep in the South American jungle, known as the Titanoboa. The Titanoboa snake was unlike any other animal in history, a true giant among predators. With its massive size and incredible strength, it was the undisputed ruler of the prehistoric jungle 60 million years ago. The death of the giant reptiles left a vacuum at the top of the food chain, and Titanoboa gladly stepped up to it. This prehistoric species grew up to 50 feet in length and weighed as much as 2.5 tons. That's as long as a semi-trailer you see on highways and about as twice as heavy as a polar bear. So yeah, pretty terrifying. At its thickest point, Titanoboa was 3 feet wide, which is longer than a human arm for some people. In the hot humid jungle, Titanoboa fits right in, its brown skin camouflaged perfectly as it slunk through muddy waters. Its behavior is a topic of debate among paleontologists. Some scientists think it killed by constriction and asphyxiation, while others argue that it kind of behaved like an anaconda, lurking in the shadows and ambushing unsuspecting animals with a stunning blow. Just imagine wandering the jungle and coming face to face with a predator of such monstrous proportions. It is both mesmerizing, but more so incredibly terrifying to think about. Number 3, the Dinosuchus. Just when you thought crocodiles were already terrifying, we have a giant prehistoric crocodile known as a Dinosuchus. Dinosuchus, meaning terror crocodile, was a giant crocodilian that roamed the earth around 72 to 82 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period. This prehistoric creature was likely one of the most terrifying predators of its time, and its discovery is shedding new light on the ancient world of dinosaurs. Dinosuchus had teeth the size of bananas, which were perfect for crushing bones of large prey such as dinosaurs. Paleontologists have found evidence of the Dinosuchus bite marks on a number of fossil bones, including those of theropod dinosaurs, hadrosaurs, and turtles. The bite marks just showed how dangerous the animal could have been, and scientists theorize that the creature likely used a technique known as the death roll to take down its prey. You know, that method still used by alligators and crocodiles to this day? To hunt, these creatures would lie in wait in shallow waters at the edge of the sea, and when an unsuspecting dinosaur came to take a drink, the Dinosuchus would drag them into the water and proceed to tear them apart with its powerful jaws. What makes this creature particularly interesting is that it outweighed even the largest theropod dinosaurs, making it the chief predator in the ecosystem and possibly the largest crocodilian ever known. Imagine if it still lurked our waters. Number 2, the Dunkleosteus. While we have a piranha that can rip through human flesh, there's another fish that can chomp straight through bone. This creature is known as the Dunkleosteus. Let's just all be thankful they went extinct. So during the late Devonian period, around 360 to 380 million years ago, Dunkleosteus ruled over the world's oceans with an iron fist. Named in honor of Dr. David Dunkel, former curator of vertebrate paleontology at Cleveland Museum of Natural History, this fish had giant bone plates in its head and jaws that served as tank-like protective armor, making it an even more fearsome predator. Dunkleosteus was massive, estimated to be 20 to 33 feet long and weighing up to 1 to 4 tons. So not only did this fish pack a punch, but it was a complete unit of a creature. Despite its lack of teeth, this fish was truly a force to be reckoned with. Its bite packed anywhere around 11,000 to 21,000 pounds per square inch of force, even more powerful than a great white shark. Its jaw plates were also self-sharpening, making it capable of eating almost anything, including its own kind. Research suggests that this creature was so powerful that it may have been the main cause of extinction for many of the species in the oceans, which is just so insane to think about. Number 1, the Anthroplora. Are you afraid of little centipedes? Well, you're gonna hate this guy. Introducing the Anthroplora. Anthroplora was a giant centipede that lived during the late Carboniferous period, around 299 to 318 million years ago. It is considered one of the largest land invertebrates of the time, with some species reaching up to 2.5 meters in length and over 30 centimeters in width. It had a segmented body that was covered in a hard exoskeleton, which protected it from predators. Each segment of its body had 2 pairs of legs, giving it an impressive total of up to 236 legs. It likely moved by undulating its body in a wave-like motion, using its many legs to crawl over the forest floor. Luckily for all the meaty animals, this creature was a herbivore, and probably fed on the lush vegetation that existed during this period, such as club mosses, ferns, and horsetails. It likely had a slow lumbering movement and a low metabolic rate, which would have allowed it to survive on the relatively low nutrient vegetation of the time. Remains of Anthroplora have been found in Europe and North America, indicating that it was a widespread and successful species. However, like many other species from this period, it went extinct at the end of it, possibly due to the change in climate or the evolution of new predators. Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the Mega Piranha. Now you might think this just looks like a regular piranha, but no, this is actually the Mega Piranha, and it's way scarier than you think. Mega Piranha is a giant fish that lived 10 million years ago, and it grew up to 3 feet long. What's unique about it is that it had not 1 but 2 rows of teeth, unlike modern piranhas. Scientists estimate that its bite could also be as high as 4,700 neutrons, which is more than twice as hard as a hippo's bite. So all you gotta think about is those hippo videos where you have them crushing a full watermelon. Well, this fish can do double. And for more perspective, the average human bite is only 400 newtons compared to this 7,000. Mega Piranha lived during the late Miocene period in what is now South America. These prehistoric predators were much larger than their modern relatives and could weigh up to 20 pounds. So you could only imagine coming face to face with one of these juiced up piranhas. Let's just all be glad they're all extinct. At a number 9 spot, we have the short-faced bear. This is the short-faced bear, also known as Arctodus. This massive bear first appeared in the fossil records 1.8 million years ago, and it's just amazing to think that they survived all the way up until just 11,000 years ago, which is a pretty close call for humans, and thank God we didn't have to come face to face with these creatures. One specimen found weighed a whopping 2,100 pounds, and when they stood up on their hind legs, they could reach up to 12 feet tall. As well, their vertical arm reach extended up to a further 14 feet. So basically, this is like coming across an oversized, overweight grizzly bear that has the same reach as Giannis Antetokounmpo. Pretty terrifying, right? At a number 8 spot, we have the Titanoboa. A silent hunter once roamed deep in the South American jungle known as the Titanoboa. The Titanoboa snake was unlike any other animal in history, a true giant amongst predators. With its massive size and incredible strength, it was the undisputed ruler of the prehistoric jungle 60 million years ago. The death of the giant reptiles left a vacuum at the top of the food chain, and Titanoboa gladly stepped up to the plate. This prehistoric species grew up to 50 feet in length and weighed as much as 2,500 pounds. That's as long as a semi-trailer you see on highways and about as twice as heavy as a polar bear. So yeah, pretty terrifying. At its thickest point, Titanoboa was 3 feet wide, which is longer than a human arm. At our number 7 spot, we have the saber-toothed tiger. Here is the saber-toothed tiger. I mean, who hasn't heard of this beast? It's literally one of the main characters in Ice Age movies. But let's get real here. This is not a creature you want to mess around with, and we should all be glad they are extinct. These creatures could reach up to 8 feet long and weigh in a whopping 660 pounds. And those fangs, that's where they get their name from, could be roughly 7 to 12 inches long. So it's really no wonder they were apex predators during their time. Did you know that they were not actually tigers at all? They're actually part of a group of prehistoric cats called the Smilodon. And while they may have been fierce predators, they have also some interesting social behaviors. Scientists have uncovered evidence that suggests that they may have lived in family groups and even cared for their young. While they may have not been the fastest runners, they were definitely strong enough to bring down the prey with one powerful bite. So could you imagine if these creatures were still around today? I don't know about you, but I think Mike Tyson would have owned one of these in his prime. At a number 6 spot, we have dinosaurs. Just when you thought crocodiles were already terrifying enough, we have a giant prehistoric crocodile known as a Dinosuchus. Dinosuchus, meaning terror crocodile, was a giant crocodilian that roamed the earth around 72 to 82 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period. This prehistoric creature was likely one of the most terrifying predators of its time, and its discovery is shedding new light on the ancient world of dinosaurs. The Dinosuchus had teeth the size of bananas, which were perfect for crushing bones of large prey such as other dinosaurs. Paleontologists have found evidence of Dinosuchus bite marks on a number of fossil bones, including those of theropod dinosaurs, hadrosaurs, and even turtles. The bite marks were indicative of the ferocity of this animal, and scientists theorize that the creature likely used a technique known as the death roll to take down its prey. And you know, this method is still used by alligators and crocodiles today. To hunt, these creatures would lie in wait in shallow waters at the edge of the sea. And when an unsuspecting dinosaur came to take a drink, the Dinosuchus would drag them into the water and proceed to tear them apart with its powerful jaws. What makes Dinosuchus particularly interesting is that it outweighed even the largest theropod dinosaurs at its time, making it the chief predator in its ecosystem and possibly the largest crocodilian ever known. Imagine it still lurked our waters. In the hump of our list, we have the Anthroplura. Are you afraid of little centipedes? Well, you're gonna hate this guy. Introducing the Anthroplura. Anthroplura was a giant millipede that lived during the late Carboniferous period around 299 to 318 million years ago. It is considered one of the largest land invertebrates of all time, with some species reaching up to 2.5 meters in length and over 30 centimeters in width. It had a segmented body that was covered in a hard exoskeleton, which protected it from predators. Each segment of its body had 2 pairs of legs, giving it an impressive total of about 236 legs. It likely moved by undulating its body in a wave-like motion, using its many legs to crawl over the forest floor. Fortunately for all the meaty animals, Anthroplura was a herbivore, and probably fed on the lush vegetation that existed during this period, such as club mosses, ferns, and horsetails. At a number 4 spot, we have the terror birds. Imagine racing across the vast Argentinian plains and you see a strange feathery bird towering over you. As you walk up to it, you see it pecking its prey to death with a hooked beak mounted on a head as big as a horse's. These were the terror birds, the most dominant flightless bird ever to exist. And let me tell you, they truly lived up to their name. These creatures were not only tall, 10 feet to be exact, but were also fast and fierce, embodying the power of their predatory dinosaur relatives before them. The terror birds were the only line of carnivorous flightless birds ever to exist. Luckily, these specimens were kept in the Cenozoic era some 62 million years ago. But if you wanted to imagine these, just imagine an overgrown ostrich with a beak that could literally crush your skull. At number 3 spot, we have the Echolopterus. 3 words, giant sea scorpion. Or 4 words, less tasty looking lobster. That's right, this 8-foot looking anthropod lived in the water and had pincher claws. Many of them looked eerily similar to the face huggers from the Alien movie franchise. They are pure nightmare fuel. Ecliptors had segmented bodies with multiple specialized limbs, some with spikes. They had spring-loaded claws to snatch a fish as they passed by, with the largest having an 8-inch spike claw. Smaller sea scorpions are known to have crawled ashore to mate and even shed their outer skin. Imagine finding the molt of one of these monsters on the shore just before going swimming. Already, with a sense of dread and paranoia, you distance yourself from the shore, and then you see a shadow in the murky waters. At a number 2 spot, we have the emerald jewel wasp. The emerald jeweled wasp has the ability to turn cockroaches into zombies. Yup, you heard that right. The wasp manipulation of the cockroach is a truly remarkable but very horrifying process. These wasps reproduce by stinging a cockroach and paralyzing it with its venom. The first sting targets the first thoracic ganglion, which is part of the central nervous system. This paralyzes the front legs of the cockroach, then the wasp delivers a second sting, this time targeting the brain of the cockroach. The stings aren't meant to kill, but to give the wasp control over the cockroach, turning it into its own zombie. The wisp then bites off the head of its antennas, and then it leads the half-paralyzed, brain-dead cockroach along by these antennas, using it as a lead towards its burrow. Inside the burrow, it lays eggs inside of the roach in a place known as the coxal plate, then buries it alive. While in its tomb, the larvae will hatch from within the cockroach, and over a period of a week, they'll begin to feed off of its still alive cockroach from the inside. Once it's done eating, it will eventually burst out of the cockroach in a manner very reminiscent of the famous scene from the movie Alien. Coming in at a number 1 spot, we have the Basilosaurus. When we see whales now, we see them as gentle giants, but back in the prehistoric times, these large creatures had very terrifying teeth. This animal was the Basilosaurus, a prehistoric whale that lived between 40 to 34 million years ago during the late Eocene period. The name Basilosaurus, which means king lizard in Greek, is fitting for this formidable creature. Measuring up to 70 feet in length and weighing between 10 to 15 tons, the Basilosaurus was one of the largest marine animals of its time. Its body structure, more eel-like than whale-like, caused initial confusion among scientists and earned it the name sea serpent. Basilosaurus also possessed a unique physical feature with its blowhole located on its snout, unlike the more primitive whales that had it at the tip of their snouts, or the modern whales and dolphins that have it located between or behind the eyes. But the worst thing is that these creatures were the very top predator in their environments. They basically preyed on sharks and all other types of other predatory fish. And the reason why this is known is because some of these animals are found with the bite marks of this creature.
Number 10, Dunkleosteus. This 33-foot long armored fish from the Devonian era lacked teeth, but its jaw contained razor-sharp protrusions of bone that it could use to pierce and cut through its prey. These bones grew continuously, and as they did, the edges rubbed together with those of the opposing jaw, acting like self-sharpening shears. This would ensure the fangs were always ready to chomp into armored prey like arthropods, ammonites, and other fish. This 4-ton monster fish patrolled inshore waters and could snatch up prey by opening and closing its jaws within 50 to 60 milliseconds. If this thing came back nowadays, they'd probably make fishing the most dangerous profession in the world, along with our next entry. Number 9, Helicoprion. The mystery of this bizarre fish starts with a weird fossil and numerous attempts to figure out what it was and how to classify it. Helicoprion puzzled paleontologists and ichthyologists for over a century. The only remains of this creature up until 2013 were from a fossilized whorl of teeth. While most scientists agreed that the teeth belonged to the lower jaw, that didn't prevent the presumed location of the teeth from migrating around the body in sometimes fanciful arrangements that can be used in numerous illustrations and reconstructions. With the later discovery of some portions of a jaw, the location of its buzzsaw-like teeth were definitely determined to fill the lower jaw. Strangely, there were no upper teeth, so this creature could terrifyingly gum and bite you at the same time. The jaw would close, rotating the teeth backwards, much like a circular blade saw. It probably fed on the soft bodies of squid and other cephalopods. The whorl of teeth was formed as they continuously grew outwards, creating a spiral as it aged. The teeth at the beginning of the whorl being small and gradually increasing in size toward the end. Another fish with an equally odd and terrifying face, Edestus, had offset scissor-like jaws that protrude out of its face. No thank you. Number 8, Arthropleura. This is not something you want to see crawling around anywhere near you. Arthropleura was an 8.5 foot long millipede from the Carboniferous era, and though it was herbivorous, likely feeding on dead plant matter like modern millipedes, it still has scare factor. I'm burning the house down if I find this under my sink. Just because it won't try to eat you doesn't prevent it from being creepy while it scuttles about. Ugh. Fossil trackways have been discovered showing that Arthropleura could move and maneuver quickly, undulating hundreds of legs in rhythm to nauseate and disturb anyone watching. These are the largest known land invertebrates of all time, and it is unlikely that they had any predators, but it could probably rear up into a defensive posture and look you straight in the eyes. Number 7, Leviathan melvillei. This extinct whale was named for both the monstrous sea creature Leviathan from the Old Testament, that when he rises up the mighty are terrified, they retreat before his thrashing, and for Herman Melville, the author of the novel Moby Dick, a tale of an accursed white whale that terrorized Captain Ahab and eventually brought about his passing and the destruction of his ship and crew. This is an amazing namesake to live up to. The Leviathan melvillei is related to modern sperm whales like Moby Dick, and lived during the Miocene epoch. It was 45 to 57 feet long and had a 10-foot long skull that housed 40 14.5 inch long teeth. These are the longest teeth used for feeding known from any animal extinct or alive. They fed on large prey at the surface of the water, including other whales. This whale likely became so large because it was competing directly with Megalodon for food, who we'll get to a little bit later. Number 6, Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus is one of the most spectacular and horrible creatures that ever stalked the earth. It had an elongated skull, much like a crocodile, and a snout filled with approximately 64 straight conical teeth. Evidence suggests that it was a semi-aquatic, so there was nowhere to escape this fish and dinosaur-devouring monster. Spinosaurus is currently the largest of all known carnivorous dinosaurs, even larger than T-Rex and Gigantosaurus. While the exact size is debated, recent finds and studies suggest that Spinosaurus may have been 41 to 59 feet in length and weighed in excess of 20 tons. It had elongated neural spines that ran along its back, creating a sail-like structure that made it look even larger and more terrifying. Number 5, Titanoboa. For those of you with ophidiophobia, this one's for you. Titanoboa was a 42-foot long snake that lived during the Paleocene epoch. It likely hunted much like crocodiles do, lurking, partially submerged at the water's edge so that it could ambush thirsty, unsuspecting animals. It would strike from the water and wrap itself around its prey, delivering a crushing demise. It lived in the rainforests of South America, where temperatures were warmer and the tropics of today. This allowed the cold-blooded reptiles to grow larger than modern reptiles can. This snake would have Indiana Jones doing the Scooby-Doo and Shaggy run. Like Zoink Scoob. Number 4, Gigantosaurus. Gigantosaurus was 43 feet long and larger than the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but only by 3 feet. It had a 5.2 foot long skull with 64 8-inch long compressed and serrated teeth that were made for slicing through flesh, though they were not capable of crushing bone like the teeth of the Tyrannosaurus. Gigantosaurus is from the Cretaceous period and lived in what is now Argentina. It was related to the nearly equally sized Carcharodontosaurus from Africa. Evidence suggests the possibility that Gigantosaurus was a pack hunter and that they hunted large sauropods. This would make it the only theropod that actively hunted sauropods. Another interesting feature is that the lower jaw was broadened slightly, allowing it to handle smaller prey. It's easy to imagine Gigantosaurus chomping down on some flesh of some goofy bipedal mammals if it had ever been given the chance. Number 3, Megalodon. This 59-foot long shark lived and hunted in the same waters as Leviathan melvillei. It had massive 7-foot wide jaws containing 5 rows of around 276 compressed blade-like teeth that were made for cutting and grasping powerful prey. Sharks have skeletons made of cartilage that are not typically preserved in the fossil record, and so the jaws of the Megalodon and a few traces of fossils are all paleontologists have to build their hypothesis. The body shape of a Megalodon megalodon is likely similar to a larger and more robust great white shark. If a megalodon exhibited ambush hunting behavior like great white sharks, it would have taken prey by surprise from below and made precision strikes to immobilize its prey with an amazingly strong bite. Sharks are also known for shaking their prey side to side to increase bite forces. Fossil evidence of teeth marks found on whale vertebrae suggests that megalodon was an active predator of large whales. Their teeth are built with a structure that would rarely crack even if they hit the bone. Damn, that's crazy. Number 2, Jacalopterus. 3 words, giant sea scorpion. Or 4 words, less tasty looking lobster. That's right, this 8-foot-long arthropod lived in the water and had pincher claws. Frankly, all of the Eurypterids are scary as hell, and this entire video could be exclusively about how terrifying these things look. Many of them look eerily similar to the facehuggers from the Alien movie franchise. They are nightmare fuel. Jacalopterus had segmented bodies with multiple specialized limbs, some with spikes. They had spring-loaded claws to snatch up fish as they passed by, with the largest having an 18-inch spiked claw. Smaller sea scorpions are known to have crawled ashore to mate and even shed their outer skin. Imagine finding the molt of one of these monsters on the shore just before going swimming. Already with a sense of dread and paranoia, you distance yourself from the shore, and then you see a shadow in the murky waters. Number 1, Sarcosuchus. Sarcosuchus, whose literal name means flesh crocodile, gross, is an extinct genus of crocodiliform and distant relative of living crocodiles that lived during the early Cretaceous. From the late Hauterivian to the early Albian, 133 to 112 million years ago of what is now Africa and South America. The genus name comes from the Greek sarx, meaning flesh, and sochus, meaning crocodile. It was one of the largest crocodile-like reptiles, with the largest specimen of S. imperator reaching approximately 9 to 9.5 meters, or 29.5 to 31.2 feet long, and weighing up to 3.45 to 4.3 metric tons. It is known from 2 species, S. imperator from the early Albian eras formation of Niger, and S. harti from the late Hauterivian of northeastern Brazil. The first remains were discovered during several expeditions led by the French paleontologist Albert Félix de Lapparent, spanning from 1946 to 1959 in the Sahara. These remains were fragments of the skull, vertebrae, teeth, and scutes. In 1964, an almost complete skull was found in Niger by the French CEA, but it was not until 1997 and 2000 that most of its anatomy became known to science, with an expedition led by the American paleontologist Paul Sereno discovered 6 new species, including one with about half the skeleton intact and most of the spine.
Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the Caspian tigers. A team of scientists is hoping to bring back the Caspian tiger, which is one of the largest cats ever to roam the earth. These beasts were generally smaller than Siberian tigers, but don't be deceived, because males could weigh up to 240 kilos and some adults grew up to 10 feet long, making them larger than most big cats seen today. The team's plan is to reintroduce them back to Central Asia, including Kazakhstan, using the Siberian tiger, which is genetically similar to the Caspian tiger. The scientists say that the Siberian tiger's phenotype proves adaptable to the arid conditions of the introduction site, and they have identified a promising site at the Ili River Delta and adjacent southern coast of Balkhash Lake. During their prime, Caspian tigers could be found in Turkey and through much of Central Asia, including Iran and Iraq. The Caspian tiger extinction was due to human activity, including poisoning and trapping, promoted by rewards in the former Soviet Union until the 1930s, as well as habitat loss caused by irrigation projects during the Soviet era, which destroyed the woodlands and reed beds that were critical to tiger habitat and caused the cat's prey to disappear as well. Although plans to reintroduce this beast are in early stages, do we really want to bring back more deadly creatures? I don't know about that one. At a number 9 spot, we're the saber-toothed tiger. Now, with another tiger on this list, we have the saber-toothed tiger, but you may know them best as Diego from Ice Age. The saber-toothed tiger, also known as Smilodon, is one of the most fascinating and mysterious creatures of the past. With 11-inch long canine teeth, it's no surprise that they're one of the most fearsome predators during the Pleistocene era. Despite their intimidating appearance, the Smilodon's teeth were actually quite brittle and would easily break during combat. These beasts also weighed up to 600 pounds, which is roughly the same as a Siberian tiger, which are still out there today. One unique hunting skill of the Smilodon was to pounce on their prey from trees and then plunge their teeth into their prey's neck. They would then wait for the prey to bleed to death and then they would consume it. So why would scientists want to bring back the saber-toothed tiger? Beats me. But considering our technology nowadays, it just seems that scientists will go ahead and just resurrect every extinct animal in history. Don't you think so? At a number 8 spot, we have the Siberian unicorn. When we hear the word unicorn, we usually picture a magical creature with a single horn on its head. However, unicorns weren't always just part of our imagination. In fact, there was once a real-life unicorn that existed on this planet. Introducing the Siberian unicorn. Unlike the majestic horse-like creature we imagine, the Siberian unicorn had a large hump on his back, similar to a camel, and it also weighed around 4 tons and were pretty terrifying. This creature roamed the grasslands of Eurasia thousands of years ago, but sadly, they went extinct around 200,000 years ago. However, newly found bones suggest that they may have survived until 40,000 years ago. The biggest problem researchers faced when attempting to bring this creature back to life was that the DNA they used was a bit too old. However, in 2018, new technology allowed scientists to analyze Siberian unicorn DNA for the first time. While it's exciting to think about bringing an extinct creature back to life like a unicorn, it's important to consider why the Siberian unicorn went extinct in the first place. So we probably shouldn't bring it back. At a number 7 spot, we have the gastric brooding frog. The gastric brooding frog was an incredible species of ground-dwelling frog native to Australia. The species is notable for its very unique reproductive capabilities. Basically, the female would swallow her fertilized eggs, stop eating, and then allow the eggs to develop in her stomach until giving birth to fully formed frogs. Unfortunately, this frog is now extinct and was last seen in the wild in the 1980s due to the human introduction of pathogenic fungi. Despite its extinction, scientists are still studying this frog species in hopes of understanding its reproductive abilities. All the way at our 6th spot, we have the mower bird. The mower bird was a gigantic flightless bird that lived in New Zealand, weighing a whopping 510 pounds. Sadly, humans hunted these birds for their meat, causing them to go extinct somewhere in the 1600s. However, researchers at Harvard University have been able to reassemble the mower bird's genome and extract DNA from a toe bone in 2018. This opens up the possibility of bringing back the mower bird through genetic engineering by using the DNA from a museum specimen of the bird and then implanting it into the egg of a living emu or kiwi. The mower bird was not the only extinct animal to be considered for resurrection through genetic engineering. In the hump of our list, we have the diodon. Meet the diodon, the mother of all pigs. This prehistoric creature was the size of a rhinoceros and had an impressive set of teeth. Diodon lived between 29 and 19 million years ago, and its fossils have been discovered throughout the United States. Adult Diodon had skulls that were about 3 feet long, and they stood at an impressive 5.8 feet tall at the shoulders. But what's in a name? If you like the sound of Diodon, you're going to love its translation: hostile, destructive teeth. This is a fitting name considering just how impressive and dangerous its teeth were. In the past, Diodon was known as the terrible pig. However, as people began to understand just how hostile and destructive its teeth were, a name was definitely necessary. It's just amazing to think about how big and powerful animals were millions of years ago, and the Diodon is a perfect example of this. So, would it be a benefit to bring these guys back? I probably wouldn't want them. At a number 4 spot, we have the Tasmanian tiger. Okay, I know this is like the 3rd tiger already on this list, but I swear, it's the last one. So, a US biotech company called Colossal Biosciences has announced its plan to bring back the Tasmanian tiger back to Australia through de-extinction. The last of the Tasmanian tigers died in captivity in 1936, but Colossal Biosciences hopes to sequence the creature's genome and bring it back to life through bioengineering. The company has outlined a 10-step process that includes sequencing the creature's genome, computational biology, and establishing compatible cell lines for cell editing, as well as stimulating embryonic growth until it is ready for surrogate and eventual birth. Colossal expects this process to last a decade and plans to create a de-extincted Tasmanian tiger-ish thing that will eventually be dropped back into the wild. However, some researchers are skeptical of this whole plan, and ethical questions remain on how to handle the creature if it is successfully brought back to life. For those wondering if they are actually dangerous, the answer is not really. And most documents show that they're actually very, very shy and avoided humans at all times. But hey, look at how they open their mouth. Terrifying. Number 3, the Beiji. The beiji, a type of freshwater dolphin, used to swim in the Yangtze River and was one of the few true river dolphin species in the world. The population began to decline due to China's industrialization, and by the end of the 20th century, there were possibly only 13 left in the wild. Despite preservation efforts made in 2001, the beiji went extinct due to human activity. The beiji was the only member of its mammal family and had highly developed sonar and reduced vision. Its extinction highlights the danger human industrialization poses to the natural world. Number 2, the steppe bison. The steppe bison was once a common sight on the vast steppes of Europe and Asia, a large shaggy-haired bovine that weighed up to 900 kilograms and had long horns a meter apart. Early humans relied heavily on this massive creature as a source of food, and its remains have been found in Neanderthal hunting campsites. But now, scientists are attempting to bring back this extinct creature through cloning. Since 2015, South Korean and Russian scientists have been working together to recreate the lost animal by attempting to clone a Canadian wood bison. Number 1, a woolly mammoth. Last but definitely not least, we have everyone's favorite extinct animal, the mammoths. These gigantic furry elephants with tusks have been extinct for a long time, but surprisingly not as long as previously believed. In fact, just 4,000 years ago, 1,000 woolly mammoths lived on Wrangel Island, which is a small island in the Arctic Ocean. Scientists are using remains of woolly mammoths found on Wrangel Island to bring them back to life using stem cell technologies. Woolly mammoths lived in cold climates, so many of their remains are intact, including a frozen woolly mammoth found in Siberia in 1997. Scientists plan to use their DNA from frozen specimens to merge with other animals like elephants. The extinction of mammoths, like many other animals, is primarily attributed to human activities like hunting and climate change. And really, we're just gonna have to wait and see if they actually do decide to bring these guys back.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, the Meg. Researchers have pinned the date of the megalodon's extinction to about 2.6 million years ago, roughly when the great white shark was just becoming established. However, a doctor pointed out that the megalodon likely lived in water no more than 200 meters deep, in and around coastal areas. We would, she says, have noticed something of the megalodon's size if it was swimming off our shores, but what if that's not where it's living? Explorers began to probe the Mariana Trench in the late 1800s using rudimentary equipment, but it was impossible to get the full picture of the trench without sending someone down. That's only happened once in history. In 1960, a researcher and US Navy lieutenant took a Navy submarine into the depths. Due to the pressure, they couldn't stay very long, but when they turned on the submarine's floodlights, they were shocked to see fish. Until then, it was thought that no creature could live in such a harsh environment. So who's to say the Meg couldn't live down there?
Over the years, reports of megalodon sightings have emerged all over the internet. A lot of them claim that these giant sharks never went extinct, that they've just been hiding in the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench.
Now at number 9, new whale. In 2016, marine biologists studying the Mariana Trench heard a strange sound of unknown origin and started recording. Although the recording is only a few seconds long, experts detected a slightly metallic quality to it, and many speculated that the noise was not natural. After months of analysis, however, the scientists believed they found the source of the noise. It's currently theorized that the sound, which marine biologists call a biotwang, is the low-frequency call of a new type of baleen whale. However, that's just one theory. Others say it's still a whale, however it's got shark-like teeth and has mutated into something unimaginable. Here at number 8, sea devil anglerfish. If a fish has the word devil in its name, it's a safe bet that it's going to be freaky, and sea devil anglerfish does not disappoint. It features a whole list of interesting, strange characteristics. As its name strongly hints, this is a fish that would have swum up straight from hell, with its weird body, razor-like teeth, and cold death stare. Although they're bizarre and scary looking, at least they're not huge. Females generally top out at 8 inches long, and the males are much smaller, at maybe an inch long or so. As an anglerfish, the sea devil doesn't dart after its prey. Instead, it has a protrusion from its forehead that dangles a glowing lure to attract unlucky animals. With its huge gaping jaws, the sea devil can actually devour creatures larger than itself.
We believe that this is the first video footage ever made of this species alive and at depth. Eyes of this angler are quite small. In their dark habitat, anglerfish rely more on feeling the movements of other animals in the water around them than their vision. The tiny pale dots you see along the sides of the fish and on its head are organs very sensitive to the slightest movements, and they function very effectively.
Now coming in at number 7, goblin shark. The goblin shark is a rare species of shark. Its unusual and creepy appearance is often described as fossil-like. It has pink-toned skin and a distinctive snout shape. It is elongated and flat, with a protruding jaw and skinny, incredibly sharp teeth. They can grow to be about 10 to 13 feet in length, and they are rarely seen by human beings. It's still unclear what the unusual snout is for, but the older they get, the deeper they dive.
Most goblin sharks are 10 to 12 feet long, but they can grow much bigger.
Here at number 6, telescope octopus. The telescope octopus is a transparent 8-armed octopus that is almost entirely colorless. Their arms are the same size and they are the only octopus to have tubular eyes. It is incredibly unusual to observe and was originally documented by Dr. William Evans in 1885. The octopus is a rare species, meaning there is little that scientists and the general public know about the marine creature, but it's believed to be a close relative of the glass octopus. These eyes provide a wider peripheral vision so that the octopus can see predators and prey alike. Those eyes can also rotate. Talk about scary. Halfway at number 5, fang-toothed fish. These fish could be straight out of a horror movie and are named after their scary teeth that, in relation to their body size, are the largest in the ocean. Special pouches on the roof of its mouth prevent the teeth from piercing the fish's brain when its mouth is closed. Fang-toothed fish do not have good eyesight and they are believed to hunt by literally bumping into their prey, sensing vibrations and movement in the water. Now at number 4, deep-sea hatchetfish. There are a lot of odd-looking fish in the sea, but not many of them resemble humans' hand tools. The deep-sea hatchetfish resembles a silvery swimming hatchet. There are more than 40 species of hatchetfish. All of them have ridiculously skinny bodies and many of them have shiny scales too, which adds to the metallic hatchet-like appearance. They are small fish and even the biggest types to grow only to about 6 inches long. Their delicate looks contradict their serious ruggedness because these fish are found in depths pushing nearly 5,000 feet. Hatchetfish have bioluminescent bodies and they can alter the brightness of their glow depending on how much light is filtering from above. In doing so, they're counter-illuminating their bodies in a clever camouflage technique. Their dim, self-produced light reduces their silhouettes, making it much more difficult for predators to spot them from below. Now at number 3, comb jellyfish. The comb jelly is a beautiful oval-shaped animal with 8 rows of tiny comb-like plates that it beats to move itself through the water. As it swims, the comb rows break up light to produce a shimmering rainbow effect. Comb jellies are gelatinous creatures with luminous body structures as they diffract any light that falls upon them. They use their comb-like plates to move around in the water. While they please the eyesight, these underwater marvels are vicious predators, even attacking their own kind sometimes. Some may be as tiny as a few millimeters, ranging up to nearly 5 feet long.
Found around 3,000 feet down are the comb jellies. That's light refracting off thousands.
Here at number 2, frilled shark. The frilled shark was discovered in the 19th century by a German who studies fish. It is often referred to as a living fossil due to its eerie appearance and the shape of its mouth. The shark has an eel-like body that's dark brown and gray in color, and the articulation of the jaws to the head. The shark derives its name from 6 rows of frilly gills that grace its body, which grows up to 6 feet long. Just as notably, the shark wields more than 20 rows of wicked, trident-shaped teeth that will tear into any bit of flesh that passes near them. Frilled sharks probably spend most of their lives near the ocean's bottom, and they like waters more than 4,000 feet deep. On the rare occasions that people snag them and bring them up to the surface, the sharks almost always perish immediately, making it very difficult for people to observe their behavior and life cycles. For years, many people assumed that frilled sharks swam and hunted like eels. Now coming in at number 1, zombie worms. Now I know what you're thinking, oh well, how can a worm be scary? Well, let me tell you. Zombie worms are also known as ocedox. The word ocedox means bone eater in Latin and refers to the worm's ability to dig into and eat bones from whale carcasses. They do so in an attempt to reach lipids enclosed in the bone. They use special root tissues for bone boring. So if you ever come near one of these things, I suggest getting as far away as possible.
At a number 10 spot, we have La Pata Sola. Deep in the Amazon River lies a deceiving and a vicious demon. Their name is La Pata Sola, or 1 foot due to having 1 amputated leg. But don't be deceived by their disability. This wilderness demon has the ability to shapeshift into a beautiful damsel in distress. She will lure male victims deep into the jungle, and only there will she transform into this 1-foot creature before devouring them into many pieces. The legend has many variations. In one, she is a mother who took her son's life and banished into the forest. In another, she was a manipulative wife who had an affair, and when the husband found out, he proceeded to take her life while chopping off one of her legs with an axe. If you're a girl, she really has no reason to go after you, but it's still recommended to watch out for a lonely girl who has a hooked nose, big lips, and tangled hair when you go to Colombia's various mountains, forests, and other remote areas. I wish I could tell you guys to watch the live movie on this creature, but... At our number 9 spot, we have El Cibon. Just north of the Amazon rainforest lies a tropical grassland known as Los Llanos. And if you happen to be taking a hike and hear a distant whistle, your fate has already been doomed. This whistle is from the restless spirit known as El Cibon, or Whistler Man when translated. He is reported to be a 3-meter tall creature wearing farmer clothes and holding a giant brown bag. As mentioned, his whistle is the signal of death. In other instances, he appears on people's doorways, unloading while counting bones straight out of his bag, and if a person dares to stop his counting, he will go after their entire family. Legend goes that he became this malevolent spirit after he murdered his own father. He then fled to the wilderness and passed away from starvation. From there, his spirit now stalks the grasslands and attacks any drunk or lost person who happens to be in his way. So on your next visit, be sure to whistle on your hikes to scare the living hell out of anyone. At number 8 spot, we have Juan Machete. This legend talks about one of the most powerful men in the region at the time, and he went by the name of Juan Francisco Ortiz. To become one of the most powerful men, it was said that he made a pact with the devil where he traded his wife and his children for a lot of money, cattle, and land. The devil then commanded Juan to conduct a ritual where he would grab a toad and a hen. He would then sew up their eyes and then bury them on Good Friday at exactly 12 at night. Once that was finished, the devil appeared just before him and said, quote, "The pact is made until the day I decide." As expected, his life prospered for years, but as with all deals with the devil, it ended off horribly. After years of good luck and fortune, his happiness slowly faded away as he already got everything he wanted in life except for love. From his depressive state, he went into the forest with all of his fortune and buried himself alive. Now Juan Machete is said to lurk deep in the woods of Macarena, who is constantly looking to attack anyone who comes close to his buried treasure. At our number 7 spot, we have El Sobron. Otherwise known as Colombia's boogeyman, El Sobron, which translates to the big hat, and it's no surprise why he's named that. He is also known as the Black Rider for wearing all black while riding a black horse, and behind this horse are 2 fierce black dogs that are bound by these huge chains, waiting to be released to devour anyone who dares to cross their path. Those fortunate to survive an encounter with El Sobron described him as a skeleton covered by this enormous hat. He is known to attack anyone who runs into him, but he prefers to go after men without honor, which includes the drunks, the gambling addicts, or the cheaters. At number 6 spot, we have Los Llanos. Los Llanos, or La Llorona, directly translates to the weeping woman, which perfectly describes the behavior of this malevolent spirit. She appears as a lost woman who is carrying a child through the Colombian streets at night. She's seen wearing a dirty white gown that covers her face and screams for help to lure victims into her grasp. From there, she will offer the baby to the victim, where the infant will place a curse, turning the victim into La Llorona next. This legend varies as this spirit is a part of many different Latino and Hispanic cultures in all sorts of places in North and South America. Some say that she was a former wife who found out that her husband was cheating. In a rage, she took her own life. Others state that she was a jealous woman who took the lives of her children because she lost her own tragically. Regardless of the story, if you hear a weeping girl in the middle of the night, don't try to be a superhero. Call for help and play with your surroundings. Last thing you want to see is this. Pop-up warning. At the hump of our list, we have La Tonda. In Colombia's Pacific Ocean coastlines lies an ugly, monstrous witch who snatches unbaptized babies, naughty children, and unfaithful husbands, and takes them to the mountains to make them their lovers. La Tonda appears at first as a concerned mother who is just asking for help, and as people follow her deeper and deeper into the mountain, she slowly shapeshifts into this ugly, deformed woman who reeks of death. As mentioned, her victims are kept into the mountains where they'll be kept as slave lovers, and the only way to break out of her trance is to get a priest or relatives of the victim and play noise in the forest like drums. This will cause La Tunda to run away, causing the victim to break free out of the trance. At a number 4 spot, we have La Bola de Fuego. This is said to be the spirit of a vicious, grumpy old lady. So it goes that she was in charge of taking care of her grandchildren, but from the start she failed to teach them any sort of manners or moral principles. So after years, they would grow up to steal, assault, and even murder. So when the lady passed away, she was cursed to travel around the globe surrounded in flames. Another variation of the story talks about a woman who was burned alive along with her 2 children, and this caused her to be this malevolent spirit ball. I don't know. Now the spirit is completely engulfed in flames and it's reported to be about 2 meters in diameter. Witnesses claimed it appeared to them as an extremely bright lantern that was shaking violently. In the Philippines, there are stories of these glowing balls chasing after people until they passed away, so this one hits close to home. At number 3 spot with El Mohan. He's described as a stout man with a sunburned face, long hair, and piercing eyes. Don't know about you, but he kind of looks like a Neanderthal looking figure with his large hands and feet, but he also has these long nails that he uses as sharp claws. And let me tell you, he is a woman lover, woman persuader. His whole purpose is to pursue women. He does this by tricking women with his deceiving charm and various luxuries including gold rings, bracelets, and gems. His victims are manipulated and then taken to the mountains where he resides in the series of cave systems within. Aside from snatching women, he is also known for stealing bait hooks and scaring away fish, stopping local fishermen from coming home with a good catch of the day. Al Mohan is said to be the main culprit to the disappearance of women who were last spotted near the rivers that are close to caves, and it's said that when someone drowned, it's because Al Mohan did it. At number 2 spot, we have La Mohana. If you live in Cartagena de Indias, beware of La Mohana, otherwise known as the Mohana. In other iterations, she is referred to as a mother of water. She appears as a woman with golden hair who lives underwater in a house made of stone. This is a shape-shifting spirit that acts like sirens in a way, where she would lure victims either from being a damsel in distress or just a concerned woman looking for help. As sirens are, their preferred victims are men, where they would lure them with seduction. When the men get too close, she screams loud as she pulls them underwater, where she'll proceed to drown them. Story goes that in Cartagena de la Colonia, a woman lived there with her husband and her son, and ever since, La Moana has become the mother of water and hates men. I mean, this one is the only one that truly makes sense to me. At our number 1 spot, we have Mula Retinta. So this is a mule. Okay, now let's just make this mule dark and evil, and we have Mula Retinta. This mule appears to people who happen to be transporting goods along Colombia's various paths. Once it's used to transport goods, it's said to cause a series of bad luck, which ranges from strong winds, storms, and sometimes it purposely takes the life of the other animals in the pack. These mules are reported in the Ardean region, which is a very mountainous region known for having very high and dangerous paths along the mountain. Regardless of whether or not you're transporting goods, just seeing this dark mule is a bad omen of death. And if you're trekking through this area, be prepared to stop, as this spirit will not allow you to pass it until it accompanies you. Never thought a mule could be this bad, but I guess these scary urban legends teach me that anything is possible. Number 10, we have the Dark Watchers of California. The St. Lucia Mountains, or the St. Lucia Range, is a rugged mountain range located in the coastal area of Central California. For many years, people have looked up at these tall peaks and spotted tall, cloaked figures looking down at them, and in a blink of an eye, they are gone. These 7 to 15 feet tall mystical entities stand motionless, wearing only a black cloak and broad-brimmed hats. Sightings were reported all the way back from the 1700s, when the Spanish had just arrived on the land and noticed these tall, dark watchers on the mountain. Despite these entities not doing any physical harm, they are always watching, making people in the area feel worried and scared of the feeling of not being alone. Some have said that the Dark Watchers are a group of migrants stuck on the mountain, while others believe that they are there to warn people of the danger ahead or in their future. Regardless, if you see these guys, your hike is probably going to end up a lot worse. Number 9, a snallygaster. Don't be deceived by the odd name. This creature is one of the most confusing and terrifying creatures I've ever mentioned ever. Said to have resided in Frederick County, the snallygaster is a dragon-like beast that is described as a half reptile and half bird that lives deep in the caves of South Mountain. Apart from its eye-popping looks, the beast is said to be responsible for stealing and eating farm animals and even children. The creature would be a silent killer and would swoop down from the skies before you would even realize. The snallygaster would consume its victims by first draining all of its blood before taking it to its lair to consume later. The last sighting in Frederick County occurred in March 1909 when 3 men fought the creature outside a railroad station for nearly an hour and a half before chasing it into the woods of Carroll County. However, who knows if this really went down, because I believe a creature of this caliber can easily take out 3 humans, but maybe that's just me. At number 8, we have Alti. In southeastern Georgia, along the 137-mile-long Altamaha River, some say a gigantic sea monster is lurking in the depths, with reports dating back since the 1800s. Alti, or by its original name, Altamaha, is a river sea monster that was first devoured by Captain Delano of the schooner Eagle. He described the creature being 70 feet long, with a circumference the size of a barrel and the head resembling an alligator. Reports of the creature started to amass, with every description describing it as a 20 to 30 feet long sturgeon-like fish, but in my opinion, this thing looks like a distant relative to the Loch Ness Monster. Don't you guys see it? Over the years, there were many sightings of Alti, and they remain consistent in their descriptions. Then more recently, a video by Jeff Warren shared an unknown creature that could resemble Alti, but you guys be the judge of that. Number 7, Pedro Mountain Mummy. The Shoshone Indians of Wyoming believed in a race of tiny people and said they were responsible for the deaths of their comrades with the use of poisonous arrows. They described this race of people to stand from 20 inches to 3 feet tall, and they gave them the name Nemirier. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. These people were known to be very hostile, not only to the natives, but to their own kind as well. It was said that they would take the life of their own people if they became too sick and couldn't help the community anymore. So basically, if you're old here, you're gone. After years and years, there has been no solid evidence for these little people until 1932. A 14-inch fully formed mummy was found in the San Pedro Mountains near Casper, Wyoming. When they examined the object, they confirmed that it did have real human remains, although it was unclear if it was a native child or this race of little people. Eventually, the mummy would be passed on through different people, but all of them had one thing in common. They would be faced with bad luck as long as they possessed the mummy, which led many to believe it was cursed. Number 6, Torch Lake Monster. The tale of the Torch Lake Monster dates back in the 1960s and 70s. Obviously, it takes place in Torch Lake, which is located in the North Michigan and is also their second largest lake in the state. A fisherman and coach by the name of Dave Foley is credited with spotting the creature first and telling stories of it since he worked by the lake for a while. Legend goes that the giant creature has a lizard's body, the head of a cat, 1 brown and 1 blue eyes, along with slimy green skin. The lake is approximately 285 feet deep, which makes what's lying underneath much more scarier and worrisome. Nighttime is when this creature is said to arise from the depths. At this time, many swimmers and boats go missing, only to wash ashore with no evidence of his demise. In the Hubver list, we have Richmond Vampire. Originating in the state of Virginia, this is not your ordinary vampire story. Instead, in 1925, the Churchill train tunnel collapsed with workers still inside. This was a tragedy for all on board because if you didn't pass away, you were badly injured. So surprisingly, in the wreckage, a bloody man appeared with jagged teeth and skin hanging off his bones. Everyone had thought it was just a mere survivor of the incident, but here's where it gets kind of weird. As it got closer to the man quickly jumped and ran away to the nearby Hollywood Cemetery, and he disappeared into the mausoleum within. They then say the vampire still inhabits the cemetery grounds, which has led many satanic and cult groups to visit and attempt to summon the vampire once again. Number 4, Albatwitch. In the forest of Columbia, Pennsylvania is a 4-foot tall hairy creature known as Albatwitch. Their name is just short for apple snitch, since they are known to be snatching apples left and right. People who walk near along the Susquehanna River claim to have these small creatures violently throw apples at them as they've tried to push them away from their homes. Their homes are said to be on top of treetops where they would only come down to gather apples. These hairy humanoids are often mistaken as Bigfoot children since they are often reported in the area as well. What if these guys are actually Bigfoot children? This would explain their small stature at least. Number 3, the Nain Rouge. It's said that since the city of Detroit was founded in Michigan, bad luck has befallen the area. This is all because of the devilish red imp known as Nain Rouge, and it's said that he cursed the entire city. Folklore suggests that Detroit's founder, Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, was warned by a fortune teller that he would become face to face with the Nain Rouge and he would have to treat him with the most utmost respect and attention. Except this information came straight through this ear and right out the other, because when he finally met up with this creature, he hit him with his crane and told him to get out of his way. This is when the angry imp cursed the entire city of Detroit and Cadillac as well. Shortly after, Cadillac would lose his fortune and have to move back to France. But misfortune still occurred in the city. It's said that in all of the disastrous events that happened in Detroit, the Nain Rouge could be spotted just before each event. It also been seen during Detroit's riots of 1967 and 1976's ice storm that caused electricity to go out for days. Number 2, Chessie. Basically Maryland's very own version of Nessie or the Loch Ness Monster. Just like the beast from Scotland, Chessie is a large serpent-like creature that lurks in the depths of Chesapeake Bay. Witnesses claim that the monster is around 25 feet to 40 feet long, and it uses its body as a sine curve to swim around the water. The sightings began in 1977 when the mass hysteria hit the locals, believing the creature was truly out there, causing a massive disappearances and drownings. The sightings continued all the way to the late 80s when the hype finally died down. Perhaps Chessie just swam away from the area, or maybe it was just the 70s. Or maybe since it was the 70s, everyone just wasn't sober. Also, Steven Spielberg's Jaws came out in 1975, which could have added more paranoia towards the water. You know? At our number 1 spot, we have the Wendigo. This one is pretty much known to all North Americans, but it's still one of the most terrifying humanoids to ever exist. A Wendigo is said to be a very rare demon, and they're described as strong monsters that have powerful desire to kill and eat their victims. The legend states that a Wendigo can possess you and even turn itself into you if the person is greedy or weak and wandering the woods alone at night. There are multiple myths talking about what Wendigos look like, but majority of them describe them to look like an animal, but very tall and a skull as a head, long legs, and their whole body covered in hair and drenched in blood. They are said to be very fast with strength like no other, super healing, amazing sense of smell, and is even said to step on water. Jesus? So be very cautious next time you try to camp in this area.